Howdy folks, this is your notes video on angles. This one has some more practice problems than the previous one on other geometry definitions, so I'm going to do the definitions just in this video, and then I'll make you another one that goes through the practice problems on this same note sheet. So just like all of the other notes videos that I have done for you, the slides are on the left side of your screen and the notes are on the right side of your screen. I'm going to be doing both so that you can follow along with me and take your own notes. All right, so let's jump into it here. So this video is all about angles. So there are 4 different types of just straight angles, like one angle by itself, right? We're going to talk about those first, and then there's some properties and different types of angle pairs, meaning 2 angles together. But let's talk about the single angles first. You have probably heard a lot of these terms before. Okay, so you have an acute angle, which I'm going to draw for you here. So this is an acute angle because it measures between 0 and 90 degrees. Okay, it's acute, it's small, right? So it's a small angle between 0 and 90 degrees. Okay, an obtuse angle is a very large angle. Okay, so that measures anywhere between 90 and 180 degrees. So not exactly 90, not exactly 180, because we have different terms for those. Okay, so a right angle, and I'm going to do my very best to draw this. Okay, a right angle measures exactly 90 degrees. And the way that you can tell is there will often be this little square, which I have drawn in green on the right-hand side here. That means that you're dealing with a 90-degree angle. So a right angle measures, and this is key, it measures exactly 90 degrees, right? No more, no less, exactly 90 degrees, okay? So 2 lines, for example, that are perpendicular, that intersect and are perpendicular, have 90-degree angles on them, okay? And the very last type of angle is called a straight angle, which I know looks basically like a line, okay, which it essentially is, right? It's essentially a straight line, okay? But a straight angle is an angle that measures exactly 180 degrees, okay? So exactly 180 degrees. So I know it can be kind of confusing when you think about straight angles because it's like, well, isn't that just a line? Yes, but see how it only has 1 point on it, right? Remember, you have to have 2 points in order to name a line. So just know if we're talking about angles and you hear the term straight angle, it literally means it's a straight line. It's exactly 180 degrees, okay? So those are all of your angle types, your single angle types. But let's talk about some of your angle pairs, okay? The 2 most common ones that you will see, are complementary angles and supplementary angles, okay? So first thing I want to point out is that all of these angle pairs, it's required that there is more than one angle, right? That's what we mean by pair, okay? So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees, always, okay? So you can kind of see the 2 different angles we have in the drawing that I have on the right-hand side of the screen, right? I have this smaller blue one at the top and then this slightly larger green one. Okay, but if I put the 2 of them together, right? See how they make a 90-degree angle if I put them together. So say, for example, this one at the top was 30 degrees and this one here was 60 degrees. Well, 30 plus 60 equals 90. Okay, so 2 angles that add up to 90 degrees. Okay, again, key here is that it's two angles, okay? So just a single right angle, like this one up here, right? This one right here, that is not a complementary angle because it's only one angle, not two, right? Supplementary angles is a very similar thing, but supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So basically they come together and they make a straight line, okay? So again, you can see kind of this larger like blue angle right here, and then I'm going to do this one in red, and then you have this smaller angle right here, but if you put them together, right, they make a straight line. They add up to 180 degrees. So let's say, for example, this angle right here was, I don't know, 130 degrees right here. And then this one, the red one on this side, was 50 degrees. Well, if I add those together, 130 plus 50, I get 180. And you can see that they physically make a straight line. So two angles that add to 180 degrees. Now, supplementary angles don't always have to be connected like this. Same with complementary angles. They don't always have to be connected. They could be two separate angles, right, that are split apart, but as long as they add up to 90 degrees for complementary, and as long as they add up to 180 for supplementary, then they fit the definition, okay? I've found that the easiest way to remember this is that complementary starts with a C, which comes before S, supplementary, in the alphabet, and 90 comes before 180 on the number line, right? So they kind of follow the same path. Another way you can think about this is like if you're giving someone a compliment, like usually they're like, an upstanding citizen, like, straight, they're right usually, right? So right angle, 90 degrees. So complementary is 90 degrees, supplementary is 180 degrees, okay? All right, then my next set of angle pairs is adjacent angles. So that literally means any two angles, right, or more, but we're just going to go with two for the most part. Two angles that have a common side and a common vertex. Okay, so here is an example. Like this, C and D. Okay, so again, we have these two angles, right? I have this angle, ABC, and this angle, CBD. They share a vertex, right? So they share this point, their vertex. I'm over here struggling with my handwriting. Sorry about it, everybody. Struggling with my mouse a little bit. Okay, so they share a vertex and they also share a side, right? A common side. Okay. All right, so if I had to actually write out this definition, this is two angles with a common side and a common vertex. All right. Okay, then my last type of angles are called vertical angles, and I call those mirror image angles. So I'm going to draw some for you and then show you kind of how they work, okay? So vertical angles are formed whenever you have two lines that intersect. Okay, so here's my two lines that are intersecting, right? And see how you have these angles that are across from each other. So see here over on the right side, I have this one in green, right? So the one at the top and the bottom. So those are like a reflection of each other. They're across from each other. And then you also have the ones on the left and the right. Okay, so we have two sets of vertical angles here. Okay, so I want to bring your attention over to the left-hand side of the screen here, because I want to show you something. And why these angles have these certain properties, okay? So I have here on the left-hand side of my screen two sets of vertical angles. And I went ahead and I named them, like I named them with numbers. So I have angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 6. Okay, so what I asked you to do was circle the two sets of supplementary angles that include angle 3. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So angle 3 is right here. So remember, supplementary angles form a straight line. So if we kind of ignore this up here, see how we have 3 and 4 together, they form a straight line. Okay, so that means they're supplementary. They have to add up to 180, right? Angle 3 plus angle 4 has to equal 180 degrees, right? Because they're supplementary, right? Then I have another pair of not a vertical angles, sorry. I have another pair of supplementary angles that include angle 3, and it's this one, right? Angle 3 and angle 6, right? So I know that angle 3 plus angle 6 also has to equal 180 degrees. Okay, so my question for you was, what happens if we get rid of angle 3? Okay, so if I'm just saying, okay, angle 3 is common between the two of them, so I'm just going to get rid of it. I've decided I don't care about it. Okay, so what I have left, right, I'm basically like subtracting it away. Okay, so what I have left is that angle 4 and angle 6 have something in common, right? Because if we added them together and like here, and they were equal to the same thing, right? 3 plus 4 equals 180, and 3 plus 6 also equals 180, okay? Then if 3 is the same in both, and that means 4 and 6 have to also be the same, right? So I'm going to go back over to the right-hand side here in just a second, and I'll actually fill in what this is, right? But the key property of vertical angles is that they are congruent to each other, right? And congruent is our fancy geometry term for equal, okay? So in geometry, and when we're talking about shapes, most of the time we use the term congruent when we're talking about two shapes that are the same, because shapes have lots of different properties, right? Like if you think about like two rectangles, right? They have side lengths, they have angles, they have a shape, right? So there's lots of different things about them, right? So we can't just say like two rectangles are equal, right? Because equal would mean only one part of them was the same. It's almost like if you think about like cloning, right? So if I was standing in front of you, right, and I cloned myself, me and my clone are congruent people, right? Because we have the same eye color, the same hair color, we're the same height, we are probably wearing the same clothes, right? We have the same brain, right? Because she's my clone. Okay, but if I just had somebody stand next to me who was the same height as me, we have equal heights, but we are not congruent people, right? We're completely different people. So that's why when we're talking about shapes and angles and all of these things, typically we use congruent when we're talking about those things, just because it's a little bit more accurate. But congruent just means equal, like they mean the same thing essentially. Okay, so the rule for vertical angles is that opposite angles formed by intersecting lines, that's the definition of vertical angles, have the same measure, or they are congruent, right? Okay. All right, so that is pretty much it for your notes on angles. Okay, so like I said, there are some practice problems that we'll do next, but I'm going to do those in a separate video so that you can have a chance to look at that differently or at a different time if you wish. So, if you would like to try the practice problems on your own before you watch that video, you are totally welcome to do so. Or if you're feeling good about this and you want to jump right in and try these practice problems with me in the next video, completely up to you. All right, I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.